Good afternoon, committee. Member of the public who has joined the afternoon session of the Weymouth and Southern Area Planning Committee. I am now going to call a roll call of committee members to ensure that everyone is back with us. So, Councillor Burwell, good afternoon.
Yes, here, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Kelvin Clayton.
I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Susan Cocking.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jean Dunser.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Nick Ireland.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you, Nick. Councillor Paul Kimber.
Present, Chair.
Good afternoon, Paul. Councillor Louis O'Leary, I know you're here.
Present, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Bill Pipe.
Here, Chairman.
Councillor Kate Weller.
Here, Chairman.
And Councillor Sarah Williams.
Present, Chair.
Thank you, everyone. Now, I will be conducting the agenda as set out in your packs. 4E on the agenda, POUT 2021-01128, land east of the Paddocks, Mosterton, DT8, 3HQ. As I've already stated in this morning's session, this item has been deferred. I will now proceed to item 4F on the agenda, and that is WP 19-00993 OUT, which is the land at Beverley Road, Weymouth. And this is an outline application for the erection of 17 in number dwellings with associated access. And I now invite Emma Tilford, the case officer, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just share my screen. Can I just check that you can see my presentation?
You can
Yes.
indeed, Emma. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I can as well.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, this application is at land at Beverley Road, Weymouth, and it is an outline application for the erection of 17 dwellings, all matters reserved with the exception of the access. And this has come to committee as Dorset Council are the landowner. So on the first slide, I've just got an aerial photograph showing the site in here. You have got the Littlemore Road, the A353 up here. And then you've got existing residential development on all four sides of the site. So you've got Beverley Road here, Pemberton Close in here. And then there is also a path that leads up the side of the site, which links Beverley Road to the Doves that you can just see there. And then the other thing to point out is the land on the other side of Littlemore Road is part of the local plan allocation, the Littlemore urban extension there. So just the red line plan of the application site there, and this does show the proposed access, which is off Beverley Road here. And there is also some alterations and access at Pemberton Close here as well. So next up, we've got the indicative site plan. This does show how 17 dwellings could be accommodated in the site, but it is indicative. So again, it shows us the two access points, Beverley Road and Pemberton Close. There is an existing drainage feature on the site, which hasn't been maintained and is overgrown. The application has shown that the storage offered by the basin would not be compromised by the development, and that they're committed to clearing the existing basin and making good. And given the the proximity of the basin to the proposed dwellings, a risk assessment has been submitted as part of the application, and it has shown that the basin can be made safe. So next up, some photos. These first two are taken from Beverley Road, and in this one you can see obviously the junction with Beverley Road and Jenner Way, but these are looking back at the site in here, and this is the highest point of the site where it meets Beverley Road, and then it does slope away from Beverley Road. These ones again taken from Beverley Road, but a bit closer looking in at the site. And you can obviously see from these photos the overgrown nature of the site. And then you can also just see a glimpse of the houses that are the other side of the application site in there as well. This next set of photos are taken from Pemberton Close, the other access point, again showing different angles of the site. And also again you can see the surrounding existing residential development to the site as well. And in this top left hand side you can see the existing dwellings of Beverley Road, and then you can see kind of that sloping nature of the site there that I mentioned. So these next set of photos are taken from different points along that path that goes along the side of the site that I mentioned earlier, linking Beverley Road to the Doves. These ones are taken from different points on that path, but you can see in this first one that this is the application site in here, and then these are those existing buildings of Beverley Road that you can see up there. In this one you can see the existing basin feature in there, and again just the overgrown nature of the site in these photos as well. In terms of the key planning issues, in relation to principle of development, the application site is located within the DDB. There's nothing to suggest at this outline stage that the proposal would result in adverse impacts on neighbouring amenity or visual amenity. The risk assessment showed that fencing could be provided along the garden boundaries, and post and rail fencing and hedging could be used, which showed that attenuation feature could be made safe, but also have an acceptable visual impact as well. In terms of biodiversity, a biodiversity plan has been agreed with the natural environment team, and that does include some financial contributions, which I'll set out on the next slide. And then affordable housing will be covered by a financial contribution. A viability assessment was submitted as part of the application and verified by the district valuer, and a contribution has been agreed that is considered financially viable. So the recommendation for this one is for committee to be minded to delegate to the head of planning to grant, subject to conditions and a legal agreement. There will be the affordable housing contribution I mentioned of 31,565. There's a financial contribution for woodland compensation, and this would be used for woodland scrub management in the Lawton Valley Nature Park. And there is also a contribution there for the translocation of slowworms from the site, again to the Lawton Valley Nature Park. And then in terms of conditions, these are set out in section 17 of the report, but there is also some corrections on the update sheet as well. But in terms of conditions, we've got the standard outline conditions, plans list. We have a landscaping condition. We also have a tree protection condition. Obviously at this stage, layout is indicative, so any tree retention at this point is also indicative, and would be considered as part of a reserve matters application. But a tree protection condition has also been included there, and that's for that information to be submitted up front as part of the reserve matters. We've got the surface water conditions, and we have also got an extra condition there for the clearing of that existing drainage feature, highways condition, car charging scheme condition, and then also a condition for the implementation of the biodiversity plan. And that's it for that one. And then I've just got the indicative site plan again there for you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emma. I invite Jenny Williams to read the written statement submitted to Democratic Services. Good afternoon, Jenny.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. Steve Tapscott, agent. I am Steve Tapscott and I am representing the applicant. I'm a chartered town planner with over 15 years experience in local government and commercial roles. I commend the case officer's recommendation to approve this application. Members will be aware of the pressure to build more homes and the risk of speculative applications to build outside built-up areas. Opportunities should therefore be seized for development within Weymouth, a highly sustainable town. Land at Beverley Road is one such site whose development the Town Council supports. The site has been deemed surplus to requirements by the Council's Management Committee and put on the market for the express purpose of developing it. It is not recognised in the local plan as safeguarded public open space, and there are no officially recognised rights of way through it. That may well explain why it has been neglected for so long, to the point where it is now somewhat of an overgrown eyesore. The proposed development would therefore see the site cleared and improved significantly. In devising the scheme before you, considerable technical work has gone into ensuring amenity would be safeguarded, as would highway safety. A full ecological survey has been undertaken and agreed by the Dorset Natural Environment team. This includes the translocation of slow worms and the provision of on-site native planting and off-site management of Lawton Valley. We have also worked hard to ensure that the development would not exacerbate surface water flooding and have demonstrated that when cleared, the basin at the centre of the site would have sufficient capacity. The submitted health and safety report has been given the green light by officers who are satisfied it strikes the right balance between retaining a sense of openness and without compromising safety. Members will see that the topography of the site is varied, and this results in abnormal building costs requiring cut and fill and retaining structures. This, along with the other costs such as mitigating ecology and surface water, affects the viability of the scheme. However, the independent DVS has confirmed that it would be viable to provide a commuted sum towards affordable housing, which both the applicant and the Council's housing enabling team agree to. In addition to the development, will contribute £162,000 towards the community infrastructure levy, ensuring that contributions will go towards multiple infrastructure types, including leisure, waste management, transport, education, healthcare, emergency services and utilities. In summary, I hope members will agree with officers that this is a quality scheme and can approve the application today. This would enable the applicant to proceed quickly towards the reserved matters approval and start building these much needed family homes as soon as is possible. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jenny. I now invite Councillor Louis O'Leary, the ward member, to address the committee.
Thank you, Chairman.
You've got 3 minutes, Louis.
Thank you. 1 minute. Liltmore is currently due 500 homes, roughly half a mile from this site to the north. Then half a mile to the east, 100 homes have just been completed, and on the field next to that, 60 homes are also up for planning. This is not to mention the pepper potting of development in various car parks and green patches in the area. Despite this, our schools are bursting at the seams, and our doctor surgery is too, as we have lacked any, and we also lack any major road improvements to cope with the increased demand on the area's services. The junction leading from Nuvias Road to Littlemore Road, which services the whole of the estate, including Beverley Road, is already under increased pressure from traffic, resulting from an increase in the population and also the popularity of the shopping precinct just opposite Beverley Road. Beverley Road sits at the bottom of a hill, and this site was designed to collect water coming down from the hills to prevent it flooding. The area, hence why the area has such a large dip at the back of the site used to retain water. We have recently carried out flood prevention works in the area further along at the back of Beverley Road, and I'm concerned that more development in this area could lead to flooding onto Detached, Merredin Close and Pemberton Close, which has happened in the past. This site is dreadfully ugly and has been left to rot, but it doesn't mean it should just be used for houses. Littlemore is facing a large number of developments, yet it seems that the infrastructure is not being put in place to match this. I would ask this committee to refuse the application on grounds of overdevelopment and concerns around flooding. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you for that. Now I'm going to call on Emma Telford to respond with any salient points she may wish to clarify. Over to you, Emma.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple, if I can. The first one being that the proposed development will be still liable, so a still payment will be made. I just want to highlight that Highways have raised no objections, and it is considered that the capacity of the basin would not be compromised. And we have got comments from Flood Risk Management Team who raised no objections. But that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you for that. Okay, are there any questions of a technical nature for the case officer, please?
I believe Councillor Kimber may have one, Chairman.
All right, Councillor Kimber, would you go ahead, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Fellow councillors, yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about how we're going to deal with the flood risk? I watched a documentary the other day, funny enough, about disturbing these natural areas that we have put by for flood risk. I just wondered if you could give us a bit more on that, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'll hand back to Emma Telford to respond to that question.
So I'd just highlight that obviously at the moment the existing basin is completely overgrown, whereas this proposed scheme would actually involve the clearing of it and it being made good so that the attenuation feature can actually then do what it is there to do, which is obviously collect that water.
Thank you, Emma. Paul, does that answer your question?
Yeah, if we could just sort of ask, if I can ask Emma nicely, if you could just show us on that line about how you're going to deal with that. I did feel as though I probably didn't get the question over clear enough.
Okay.
If you could sort of show us how you're going to deal with trees or any other areas that may go because of it. Thank you.
So like I said in my presentation, obviously a lot of these details are indicative at the moment because it's an outline application. But the indicative site plan, which hopefully is still on your screen, shows the basin here that would be cleared and then obviously used for attenuation of any surface water there.
Okay. Councillor Kimber, are you happy with that response?
Yes, Chair. Yeah, I'll say a bit more on the general debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Are there any further questions of a technical nature?
Just myself, Chairman.
Okay, go ahead.
With the clearing of the basin, Emma, would that make the capture of water which runs down the hill easier to collect and therefore reduce the risk of flooding to these properties?
Can you respond, please?
Sorry, I was also just trying to bring up these photos. So obviously the existing depression on the site is, as you can see from these photos, is completely overgrown. So the flood risk management team did see it as a benefit, the fact that as part of this scheme that would be cleared and the basin made good so that it could collect the surface water.
Would I be right in saying at the moment that the runoff it is not collected that well because of the overgrown state of the basin?
I wouldn't like to provide a response on that. But the flood risk management team have raised no objections.
Okay, let me suggest then that the clearing of the basin would enhance the collection of runoff and rainwater, in my opinion. Anyway, that's my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Do you want to respond to that, Emma, or shall I go ahead?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions of a technical nature, please?
None, Chairman.
Okay, I now open the debate to members. So who have we got to speak then?
At the moment, Chair, nobody.
Okay, well in that case then
Now we're inundated.
oh, well done. Okay, who we got first then?
Councillor Kimber, sir, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Kimber, would you go ahead?
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair. You said those magic words. Nobody's speaking.
Yeah.
I'm very, very uneasy about this application, and especially around the clearing of this area. Councillor Louis O'Leary quite rightly pointed out about the level of house building that is going to be undertaken in the Littlemore conurbation, or the Littlemore area, which is going to be, and I'm not opposing it, I'm going to be the first to say we do desperately need housing, and the right sort of housing. And wherever I go around the country, I always look at other councils to see how they're dealing with this. My view is that this development is overdeveloped. I would be happier if it was less houses, and that we were more imaginative with that area. I know it's areas of something that we can look to in the future, but I've seen in and around Littlemore quite a few what is now being termed as rare birds, for instance, or other areas that where we want to safeguard nature. So I believe this is overdevelopment. That's the point I want to make, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber. Remembering, of course, this is an outline application, so it's an indicative site plan we have before us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
What we're actually discussing at the moment, or debating shortly, well, no, we're actually doing the debate, aren't we? Would be the access. All other matters are reserved at the moment. Kate, Chairman. Councillor Weller.
Councillor Weller, would you go ahead, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. I too have reservations about this. When we saw the plan, the photograph earlier, it's a nice green area in the middle of existing homes, and I have no doubt at all that children play there. I'm sure Councillor O'Leary would be able to confirm or deny that. He's probably one of the children who did play there at one time not so long ago. What concerns me mainly, though, is the point that Councillor O'Leary made, that we are doing a lot of development in this area at the moment, but very little has been done for the infrastructure. So the roads are becoming increasingly busy around the whole of this estate. Most importantly, the doctor's surgery is absolutely at capacity. So although reluctantly, I think that at some time in the future, this land may well have to be built on, I would only be happy about it if I thought that it was absolutely social housing, and not until the capacity of the doctor's surgery and the other things that young families need have been improved. So I'm not ruling out that houses will be built there at some time. I don't think now is the time to do it. I'm also extremely worried about the flooding situation there with the pond. I'd want to be very, very much convinced that the fencing and so on around that was very, very secure. And I say that as the sister of someone who died was drowned in exactly those circumstances, and it makes me very, very uneasy when I hear of houses
in such close proximity to attenuating ponds and so on. So I'm uncomfortable about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
You may wish to go to Anne Collins, Chairman, although Councillor Ireland is next on the list.
Would you mind, Councillor Ireland, if I go to first?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say in respect of Councillor Weller's comments, obviously she made some comments about sort of infrastructure provision in the area. Obviously the Littlemore allocation where there's outline planning consent for the 500 home scheme, that does come with a school. So there will be in due time, if that site, if reserve matters are submitted and the site is developed, there would be the provision of the school through that. And in terms of the flooding, I do hear Councillor Weller's concerns about sort of the depth of the pond, etc. It is already meant to be a deep pond, it's just that it's become overgrown, and in fact this scheme actually provides the opportunity to therefore fence it potentially, depending what the reserve matters is. But we have had a risk assessment and details of potential fencing come forward from the applicant, and the flood risk management team have reviewed that and consider it potentially acceptable if that was what was put in as part of any subsequent reserve matters application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor Ireland, Chairman.
Councillor Ireland, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, there I am. Well, I'd like to propose we go with the recommendation. It is green space, but across the road we can see that on the map there. Yeah, that's A, A and B, and we approve that 500 homes. So, in the scheme of things, it's only a very small plot. Nobody else has raised any objections in terms of highways and flood risk management, so I see no reason not to approve it.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Any more to speak, Bill?
No, I'm just reading a message from Councillor Weller. Okay, no, that's it, Chairman.
Okay. Right, okay. Remembering though, was the comment.
Are you allowed to come back after you've spoken, or is that?
I will allow that. Or go ahead.
Chair, many years ago, I was Vice Chair of Housing when we looked at Littlemore, and again in those far off days we were very concerned about building then because of the flood and the flood scheme, and I well remember that debate, and some of the leading members at the time said there's a real reason why Littlemore is called a moor, and I believe that, and it was thought then that we had to be very, very careful with these areas of flood then, and this was on the old Weymouth and Portland Council, that we had to be very, very particularly careful with these areas. So, and that's just a point I want to make, that that advice has stood by me for a lot of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber.
You're now clear to go to the vote, Chairman.
No, I haven't got a seconder yet, Bill. But
pardon.
Before I do, I just wanted to draw the committee's attention to the consultees. First of all, Weymouth Town Council not only said that they had no objection, but said that they welcome the proposal. I think it's quite significant in my mind. Looking at the other consultees regarding highways, flood risk management, etc., you notice that they all end up by saying that they have no problems with this particular proposal. So, if you can bear that in mind when making your final decisions. I'm looking for a seconder.
You have a seconder, Chairman, and Councillor Susan Cocking. If you can do that verbally, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. Chair, yeah, I'm happy to second this.
And just a reminder, Chairman, this application also has 2 recommendations, A and B, and updated conditions.
Yeah, I was just going to check with Councillor Ireland that he's proposed, and the proposition is on both recommendations. Am I correct?
Yes, correct, Chairman.
And Councillor Cocking, that on both, you seconded on both recommendations. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Chair.
And on the relevant information, Chairman, on the update sheet.
Yes. I did mention the fact the up-to-date sheet has been read by everyone previously. I've got no more speakers. In that case, then I'll take a vote by roll call, and I'll start off with Councillor Dave Bolwell.
Minded to approve, Chair.
Thank you. Kelvin Clayton.
Yeah, approved, Chair.
Thank you. For clarity, Councillor Susan Cohen.
Approved, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jean Dancer.
Against, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bill Pipe.
For, Chairman.
Okay. For clarity, can I ask Councillor Nick Ireland?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Kimber.
Against, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kate Weller.
Against.
Thank you. And Councillor Sarah Williams.
Minded to approve.
Thank you. I'm minded to approve that also. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4. 1, 2. Against. I've got that at 7-2. Are you in agree? 7-3. Beg your pardon.
Yes, that's correct, Chairman.
That's fine. Okay, that therefore was carried.
Thank you,
Dennis. For that. Okay, we're going.
Chair, apologies. I think I need to make the.
Yes, sorry. I do apologise. I now go over to Anna Lee to make the formal decision on this item.
Thank you, Chairman, and I confirm this will be determined in line with the committee resolution, which is that it will be approved subject to the Section 106 agreement or refused if that Section 106 agreement is not agreed within 6 months or an agreed extension of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's amazing. I always mean not to forget that last little bit.
I was there, Chairman. I was just about to dive in there, but I was beaten to it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Phil. Okay, right. We go on to item 4G on the agenda, and that is WP 2000944 FUL, and that's 35 Eastern Road, Portland, DT5 1BS. And that's the change of use from bed and breakfast accommodation and conversion to three residential dwellings, erection of a detached garage, and erection of 3-bedroom bungalow. Right, I now invite Joe Riley, who is the case officer, to introduce the item. Over to you, Joe.
Right, I'm just checking that you've got my screen, which you haven't, because we've still got the agenda item up on the screen. Let me just see if I can correct that.
Okay.
Something is being shared in the live event right now. Anything you share will replace it. So if I say share,
yeah, that's right.
And then my PowerPoint. Why are you not setting my PowerPoint up as a shared screen?
Don't worry.
Have you selected it from the bottom?
Yeah, I've got it from the tab at the bottom.
Could you talk Joe through that, Kerry, please?
Maybe I'll just unshare for a minute to start with, and then I will bring my PowerPoint up. Share my window. Well, you're not. Let me just stop. Well, you're getting this now.
Come through.
Is it coming through?
Yeah.
And
just need to select the PowerPoint.
I'm not getting a red line around it, but if you're sure you're seeing my PowerPoint.
We can't see your PowerPoint, but we can see your file.
You haven't opened the PowerPoint yet, Joe. We can see your screen, so you just need to open the PowerPoint.
Right.
That's it.
Have you got it now? Because I've got the PowerPoint open.
Double click on it.
Yeah, I've got it.
Unshare.
I've got it open.
And then
let me unshare and share again. Yeah. Then. Okay, let me just unshare. Share again. There's my window. There's my PowerPoint. Hey, it's got a red line around it. I can see what
Oh,
I
no.
can see now.
You've got it, Joe. You've got it.
Oh dear, oh dear. Right. Anyway.
If you go to
Right.
slideshow,
I'm just going to.
Everything's fine.
you need slideshow, don't you?
You need slideshow off the top, at the top, Joe,
There we are.
slideshow.
It's hidden yet. There it is. Slideshow
And then
from the beginning.
That's it.
And also I need to do the point options with the laser pointer. And we're there. Right, sorry about that, everyone.
Game on.
Sometimes it works straight away, sometimes it doesn't. Never mind. Right, okay, so 35 Eastern Street, we're looking at the conversion. It's a proposal in two halves. We're looking at the conversion of the former pub into 3 dwellings and the erection of a detached dwelling. So I was just going to show you how 35 Eastern Street sits within the conservation area of Portland and what sort of structures we've got around there. This is the main building of the former public house, which has since been used as a guest house. This is the site. This is showing some existing structures within the site which would be removed. There's access to the site would be down here, and there is a characteristic of the area is that there are backland properties with access coming in from the side. I believe this property goes underneath here as well to get access to the rear. There's quite a few outbuildings in the area. So the general characteristic of Eastern Street isn't just development facing the street, there is backland development, and that's something that the planning inspector actually referred to on a previous appeal decision, that the open nature of the conservation area has been eroded with structures, and that the general sort of form is that of lots of small courtyard areas as well, with brick walls around them. So this is showing how the detached dwelling would sit within the site, and I'll come to that in more detail. This is just an aerial photograph just to show what's there. The area of land at the moment, which would be for the detached dwelling, is mostly laid to lawn. These are some structures that are there at the back of the property, and as again you can see that there's quite a lot of housing to the back of the site. So this used to be called the New Inn at one point, and then we granted planning permission to change the use to a guest house, and it was called number 35. Since the beginning of COVID, the last couple of years, it hasn't really been used at all, apart from occasional Airbnb use. I'm showing this one because you can see that that's where access would be to the back. And this is the important frontage with the bay window and the dormer windows. This is just a few, well, next property, but one down. And this is a narrow access with a drop curb that leads down to two pair of semi-detached, number 27 and number 29, which we can see on the site plan. And I was just showing that so you can see that yes, there are occurrences of accesses, narrow accesses to the back of properties. This is showing the back of the pub as it is at the moment. They already do have a 2-storey pitched roof outshot. All of this sort of paraphernalia, you know, in relation to the pub would obviously go. And this is looking from the back of the pub. This is number 27 and number 29. They haven't got any side windows here. They do have a rear wing that's got a first floor window. And I think my recollection that they've got a door at the side on the ground floor that you can't quite see because of the tree. And this is the sort of the pub garden really. This property here is looking at the back, and that is accessed from Reform. So looking at the conversion of the former public house, it would be into 3 dwellings, plot 1, plot 2 and plot 3. Plots 1 and plot 2 are both 2 bedrooms, and plot 3 is the larger property of 3 bedrooms. These very faint dotted lines show where stuff already exists that would be demolished, but here on plots 1 and 2 they would have a small 2-storey pitched roof rear extension. Plot 3 has already got that pitched roof extension, and they would have an additional flat roof element to provide the kitchen and living room with bifold doors. So looking at the first floors of the conversions, you can see there 2 bedrooms, sorry, 2 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and then this one has the 3rd bedroom, and this is the outshot. You can see that on the roof plan, pitched roof outshots. I want to show you the back of those because we're talking about those. So at the back, the pitched roof outshots, conservation officer is happy with the scale of those. They're subservient, they're of sort of traditional form that you find on the back of historic buildings, replication of the sash windows, conservation style roof lights, keeping the chimneys, and the proposed materials is random Portland stone and slate. Front, the only alterations that would be required at the front for the 3 dwellings is a new dormer window which would match the existing, an additional window here, an additional front door, so this front door would serve this dwelling, and so on. They both, you know, they've all got their own front doors facing from the street. You can see here that's the dormer, the existing bay, and that the extensions are set down from the ridge, and that the eaves height is modest eaves height, and the conservation officer was happy with those elements. So that's the the conversion elements. They would all get as a detached garage building, a hip-proof detached garage building, which I will show you on the site plan where that would be located. And these can obviously be used for car parking or other storage purposes. So this is the front eastern street. This is the existing pub. These are the additions, the pitched roof additions. This is a flat roof extension. Each one of the houses in the conversion has an adequate sized garden. For these are 2 bedroom dwellings. The slightly larger garden because that's a 3 bedroom dwelling. There's bin stores there, bin store here, bin store, bin store. 3 car parking spaces proposed in the detached garage building. Coming off of Eastern Street, space to turn around to come back out again into a forward gear. So sticking on this site plan, because this is showing the detached bungalow to be proposed as well. It has got a dormer here at the front, and it has got a 1-storey extension at the rear. This bit here is a flat roof garage and parking space that would obviously come in from the same access there. The relationship here between number 29 is considered adequate. A previous proposal we had for 3 detached dwellings at the rear, that the 2.5-storey height came much closer to the boundary, but because we've now got that separation here with the little path down to the back, and this just being a flat roof garage, we don't consider that there's going to be any harmful overpowering dominance from this built form here. This is the elevations of the bungalow, chalet bungalow. Quite nice, attractive feature at the front. That's the flat roof garage, slate and random stone again. And this is a slightly unusual flat roof fixed attachment, not an extension because it's all at the same time, but that would provide them with their kitchen living room space. Just to show the views of the bungalow from the rear. So this is what the neighbour's property of number 27 would see. There are no windows on that side elevation. This is the floor plan of the bungalow. Like I said, it's 2 bedrooms, so a modest sized bungalow. This is the offset rear wing to provide a larger kitchen space. This I was just putting up because this is the application that was refused previous to this, and the applicants have considered this the reasons for refusal and the appeal decision. And the thing that the planning inspector said on this one was, again, because that was that close proximity, these also had inadequate garden sizes. They used up a lot of space there for turning and parking spaces there. And these were actually dismissed on appeal, and they were 2-storey and dormers. So I think that what now in that location, which is the modest bungalow, has overcome some of those concerns that the planning has inspected. I just want to go back to the site plan. Some comments have come in to say that the access is dangerous for pedestrians, and on the previous application that was recommended for permission, it was overturned at committee and an additional reason for refusal was added in terms of the harm to the access. At the time then, and also at the appeal, the dismissed appeal, it was pointed out that people walking along the pavement here would naturally take a wider path around the bay window. They wouldn't, you know, just be walking straight out from this little corner here, straight out, and not see a car. I see a car coming along, and that was not a initial reason for refusal, and it was not a concern by the highways officers previously, and it isn't a concern now in terms of highway access, that there is adequate visibility as you come out, and the fact that they can turn around and come out in a forward gear. One of the other issues raised was in terms of access for fire safety, but obviously these properties here would be able to be served from a fire engine on the street, and the hose would meet that far. These are the garages. This is 46 metres away from the street edge and the fire service require. Well, it might be the other way around. I think this is this 46, and the fire service say they can reach up to 45 metres. If there is a concern, what they ask for is for the property to have sprinklers. But that is something that can be decided at building control level. In terms of sustainability, the applicant has said that they would provide car parking charging in the garages, and the dwelling could have its own car parking. The orientation is east-west of the new bungalow, and obviously of these houses, so they're not going to overheat. The conversion is more sustainable because they would use existing materials rather than a complete new build. And if necessary, they could put solar panels, use grey water systems, so it could be quite sustainable. So in terms of main issues, it is within the development boundary. It is a conservation area, but we've got an appeal inspector plus a conservation officer saying that in terms of the pattern of development of the conservation area and the scale of the proposal, that it's not harmful to the important element of the conservation area, which is Eastern Street and the way that the houses front the street, the front of the street. There's no highways objections. We don't consider that there's any significant harm to the potential occupiers or the neighbours, and that the potential occupiers all have adequate amenity space. We did spend a bit of time on this one because we needed to get some information from the applicant in terms of supporting the loss of the guest house. So the loss of the pub was primarily established when it changed to the guest house. The guest house, we spoke to the economic development officers and they were of the opinion that it is regrettable that you're losing some public benefit of the guest house, but it is such a small scale economic benefit at the moment that you'd only have one person perhaps employed there as a cleaner on an occasional basis, and the fact that the property has not been used for a couple of years now. It's not really a loss of a community facility in the same way it was a loss originally when it went from pub to guest house. So we have got to delegate to the head of planning because we've had an appropriate assessment done in terms of looking at the catchment area of the Chesil and Fleet habitats site. Tom was talking about his this morning. So we've done an appropriate assessment that has come back to say that there isn't considered to be any harm to the recreation benefits of Chesil and the Fleet habitat site, but that appropriate assessment has had to go to Natural England for them to have the final say on whether they considered that, that the mitigation measures are acceptable, and the mitigation measures are a contribution to Natural England which would be taken from the seal pot. So subject to Natural England coming back and saying that they're happy with the appropriate assessment, then these are the suggested conditions: the standard 3-year time limit, the plans list, removing the PD rights to the bungalows so they can't suddenly put lots of dormers and extensions on it, the turning and parking to be provided prior to occupation, hard and soft landscaping details to be provided, and that would include boundary treatments, landscaping, long-term maintenance of the landscaping where you've got sort of shared hard or soft landscaping, then you need to know who's responsible for that. It may not be left to an individual. The actual details to be agreed, although we know they're Portland stone and slate, we just want the to know whether that's natural slate. That we want the windows to be timber sash windows and white. The roof lights should be flush style, at what we call conservation style. Details of the boundaries. We want to make sure that no windows are put on the south side of the side of plot 3, because that would be immediately next to the garden of plot number 2. And again, that although it is in a conservation area, they can't do a lot, but to make sure that we don't have any enlargements to the dwelling, such as single-storey extensions. Highways have got their informatives about the access being constructed to their requirements, the seal contribution, and there's just an informative to the developer to remind him that if it's going to affect a BT infrastructure, that they need to get consent from BT. So the recommendation is delegate, and then subject to the conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Joe. Thank you. I now invite Jenny Williams to read the written statements as submitted to Democratic Services. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. and Mrs. P.D. Simpson object. We object to this application on the grounds that, as with the last proposed plans, we consider it to be unsuitable intensification of land use in an already highly developed area, compounded by inadequate access for the proposed number of dwellings and loss of amenity for existing dwellings nearby. Backland development, whilst existing nearby, but in some cases not recent, is not a good form of development in planning terms. Further, there appears to be no provision for rear access to the proposed properties that would support this type of backland development. We are, however, pleased to see this proposed development has now been reduced to a 3-bedroom bungalow, and feel this would, if the planning application was successful, be a much more sympathetic addition than previously proposed. However, we would like guarantees that, if successful, this development would not be resubmitted for a larger upgrade in the future. Kenneth Lynham, support. I have lived most of my 84 years opposite the property known as number 35, which is the subject of the above planning application conversion into 4 dwellings. Throughout its life as a noisy public house known as the New Inn in wartime, later with music licence and latterly as a peaceful B&B. The property is well clear of the main shopping area and lends itself to conversion for much needed housing. The access is no different to those already repeated further down the road, and in recent times a new bungalow chalet has been built at the back of a narrow access which necessitates driving over a pavement in a much busier area adjacent to the shops and main bus stop. So I feel a precedent has already been set. It would be good to have some residential permanence. As there is provision for parking behind the old pub, number 35, it should not impact on an already busy street scene. I feel the sensitive conversion will enhance the look of the area. Tim Clark, support. We are writing to express our support for the above application as residents of Portland. We know the building and gardening from visiting when it was a public house. We prefer this scheme than the previously proposed. It is much like other developments in the area which were already passed and have been built. We feel the modest use of the rear garden space with just one plot is in keeping with the area. The proposed chalet style bungalow in the rear will be much less imposing than previously proposed townhouses. We see no issues with access as this is an existing situation with access to other properties along the street and much less disruption than when the pub had regular deliveries. Access is also far away from the shopping area of Easton Square. This application will bring new people to the area, which will help support the local businesses and enhance the community of Easton. Easton local businesses and local economy will benefit from new families being able to move to the area. We support this change of use of building as it makes good use of an attractive building in the street scene. The conversion to residential will result in far less disruption to neighbouring properties than any commercial use. We fully support and welcome this application. Ross Fisher, agent. The first 3 points in the officer's report relative to housing supply does not need further justification in terms of the following. The loss of business use is considered acceptable based on evidence submitted. Additional evidence was requested, an agent's letter explaining the time frame in respect to the marketing of the property since 2012 to 2013 as a pub, which led to the change to a B&B as an attempt to make the property viable. This proved unsuccessful, and since 2018, the property has been marketed as a going concern with no positive outcome. There is not considered to be any significant harm to neighbouring residential amenity or amenity of potential occupiers. The previous occupation, which was the previous application, which was refused and in turn lost its appeal, these proposals for 3 new 3-storey townhouses located in the rear of the garden. The proposals here before you are for a modest chalet-type bungalow, which has minimal impact on adjoining neighbours. There is no harm presented to the conservation area or setting of other designated and non-designated heritage assets in accordance with the MPPF 2021. Minor amendments were requested by the conservation team, which were promptly responded to in a positive manner, and drawings subsequently amended to suit. There are no highways safety issues. The access is an existing access, much like other access points along this side of Easton Street, which will serve similar forms of development to that proposed. Arguably, the access was in use as a pub and as a guest house. The proposed use as residential would create no additional danger to pedestrians to what has and still exists on the site. There are no material considerations which would warrant refusal of this application. This application was submitted on the 11th of December 2020 and given the validation date of the 16th of December 2020, although this did not happen until the 1st of February 2021. The application, as per the officer's report, has been concluded with no material considerations which would warrant a refusal of this application. Nearly 12 months for some submission, 2 local company directors and employers with a property that clearly is not fit for purpose, which they must endure the cost during the worst economic crisis this country and the world has ever seen. And here we are now discussing this. Who benefits from this application being held during this committee today? If you are suggesting this site does not conform to policy and does not pass the test for residential development, then please answer this question. If not residential, then what? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Jenny. I now invite Councillor Paul Kimber, the ward member, to address the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
You're fine, Paul.
Yeah, and we've got 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you can see from the report, I did oppose this last time. My concern now, I would first ask the committee to consider what Joe said about the fire or some sort of fire device around the back of those properties if this is passed. I think that's most important, because my concern has always been that access going across the pathway, and I think that's something that this committee's got to really consider. I welcome the change from, if you like, 3 properties that were, if you like, that tended to dominate the previous of the old properties built there. But my big concern, Chair, is this is a beautiful old Portland building. It was, as quite rightly has been said, it's been a pub and recently been a guest house for many years. If Joe could you show us the front of the pub? It's got on the lower side, I think there are what might be termed as mullion windows and I hope those windows will not be disturbed in any way. They are pretty unique, and I would say that is a very special feature of this building. Thank you very much, Joe. And as you can see from there, those windows as you go along there are particularly unique, and with the dormer window, and it does have, and this building does have quite a long Portland history on. But coming, as you can see, the width of that entrance and coming out for cars is not very wide, and I do think it's going to be very difficult if a fire engine had to be called, or something had to be called. So I think there's got to be some sort of thinking about the possibility, if there should be a fire around there, that there should be some sort of contingency. So that's my actual thinking, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Right, now I'm going to call on Joe Raleigh to respond with any salient points you may wish to clarify. Over to you, Joe.
Okay, I will just show you the proposed frontage. So the proposed frontage is keeping those windows that Councillor Kimber's just referred to, the mullion windows. You can still see they're still there on the frontage, and there isn't any proposals to change them. The only additional changes are those that are annotated, which is the new door and the window to the left of the bay, and the new dormer in the centre of the roof. The other point was about the access. I did talk about this with the building control officers, and when they were talking about the 45-metre rule, it's the length of the hose that the fireman can get there if the fireman can't get the engine to the site. They've got a 45-metre hose length. So the properties at the front of the site would be easily reached, as with the garage. And I think from my measurements, the new house is just outside of the 45-metre length that they could get to. Obviously, they could probably reach the front of the house, but they wouldn't have a hose that's long enough to go around the back of the house. And that's the same situation that they've got at existing properties at number 27 and number 29. So what building control normally asks for in these circumstances, where they know that it's unlikely that the engine can reach, they ask for the house to have installed sprinkler systems, and you find that in most modern modern new housing schemes, that it's a sprinkler system that goes off automatically as soon as any smoke is detected, and that seems to suit building controls purposes. Okay.
Thank you, Joe. Right. Are there any questions of a technical nature for the case officer? First,
No.
I've got, which I'll go first if I may, Joe, is that
you're the only one, Chairman.
my. Oh, right, okay. All right. I just wanted to ask Joe and her comments about the sprinklers. Have we got that down? I don't remember reading in the conditions that we've got that down as a condition for the application to actually install sprinklers. Is that right?
No, it's not a condition, but it would be a matter that building control would deal with. They wouldn't give them a completion certificate if they didn't consider that it was suitable. So building control would deal with the matters of construction and fire safety.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Do we have any further questions of a technical nature, Bill?
Councillor Weller, Chairman, then followed by Councillor Clayton.
All right, Councillor Weller, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Joe, looking at the plan that you've got up on site now, I don't have any objections to this application. I think it's a good use of the building. I think it's a great shame that the pub's not there anymore, but that's life. I'm just a little concerned. I'm trying to visualize the distance from the pavement up to that turning area at the back of the buildings and in front of the bungalow. If someone were coming out of the building as someone was turning up into the parking area, how easy would it be for either of those drivers to see one another? What I'm concerned about is the idea that somebody has turned in and their passage is impeded, that they're not then going to try to back out again into the pavement and thus onto the road. So I'm wondering if we can put some sort of condition that there are, I know highways aren't keen on mirrors particularly anymore, but whether there's some condition that can help with sight lines should people be coming in the opposite directions there. That's my only concern at all, and I don't know whether it's been discussed at all, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to hand that back to Joe to respond.
No, we haven't discussed having a mirror there. I say highways didn't consider it was a concern. I'm guessing that because you only really have one dwelling at the back that the access road is serving, and then the parking area to the houses at the front, that the traffic movements are quite low. The chances of somebody happening to come out at the same time somebody else coming in is perhaps quite a low probability, and I'm guessing that's a similar situation that happens now if somebody's going to one of the other houses at the back, that they I guess they have a look before they drive in and then wait before they go down. But it wouldn't hurt to put a mirror, but putting a mirror isn't actually development, so
it's not. I appreciate that, and Chairman, if I can come back, the fact is that you've got a garage and a parking space, so that could mean that each of those properties have 2 cars. I think we will all say that the chances of one of us going out whilst another one is coming in are not that slim, actually. We all do live sort of weather-vane lives these days, so it's not just the bungalow at the back, but it is the possibility of 3 cars already being on those parking spaces and one of the people from the house coming in at the same time. So I think the chances of somebody coming out when somebody is coming home are not that slim. So it wouldn't be a reason to not approve this, but I would like some sort of reassurance. I really don't like the idea that somebody might back out into the street, because quite a lot of people walk up and down that road there. So it does concern me, and I note that highways haven't made any objection, but you know, they very rarely do. So I just would like to voice my concern there. That's all really. Thank you.
Before you go to refer back to Joe, Chairman, you might wish to take Anne Collins.
Okay, yes, thank you. Oh, over to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Weller probably just wanted us to note that concern, perhaps. But in terms of the mirrors, we should only be putting condition on for something if we would have otherwise refused that application without the condition. And Councillor Weller said herself that she wouldn't think it's probably a reason for refusal, and highways got no objection. So I totally hear those concerns, but I would just caution members sort of adding conditions on when the relevant consultee has raised no concern. I hear your concerns. I think it probably likely anybody, that started to pull out and the car was coming in, I'd hope the person would back up into the courtyard rather than out onto the pavement. So, yeah. Highway's got no objection.
Oh, I noted that and I agree with that. Okay. Councillor Kevin Clayton then.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Regarding access in case of fire, I know it was mentioned that building control are consulted. Would it be appropriate on these occasions to consult fire and rescue service?
I believe what happens is we consult building control, and then they are the liaison between us and the fire and rescue services if they consider that there's something they really want to get some comments on.
With the fire
if building control want some help, then they would then go to the fire services. But building control do know what the requirements of building services are, and having had the conversation with building control officers, they were talking about the length of the hose, and that it's just outside of that distance. So they probably would have to have sprinklers. Yeah,
that would be for a standard hose reel. The larger hose comes in 25-metre lengths and can be extended. So
it depends, I guess, on what appliance turns up at the time. I don't really know the details, but we don't normally get that involved in it at planning stage. It's left for building control to deal with safety, fire safety aspects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any more technical questions at all, Bill?
No, Chairman.
Okay, if there are no more deliberation, members can. Right, I now open this to debate. If there's no more technical questions, have we got anyone wishing to speak, Bill?
Not as yet, Chairman, but as soon as I say that, there'll be 1,000.
Shall I wait for a second?
Yeah. I've been proved wrong, Chairman. You may seek a proposer and a seconder.
Okay, I therefore seek a proposer, remembering, of course, we're proposing the amended recommendation as laid out on the update sheet, of which there are 3 pages of the update sheets for this particular application. And I know that every single committee member has read that fully. So I'm seeking a proposer, please.
You may find that in Councillor Cocking or Ireland, Chairman.
Who was first?
Councillor Cocking.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would be happy to propose to accept this application. It's a shame that we're using the pub, but I think it's been developed in a sympathetic way by still keeping the frontage, and there is housing either side of it. So I think it's a very sympathetic development given the circumstances. So I'm happy to accept this application.
Yeah, that's okay, and that's for the amended recommendation as laid out on the update sheet. Yes.
Councillor Nick Ireland, Chairman.
I think didn't you say that Councillor Ireland wanted to speak next?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to second Susan's proposal for the recommendation as amended.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Councillor Weller, did you have anything more to say apart from you were?
No, I was just happy to second, but that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, Chairman, you're free to go to the vote.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I'll now take there's no more deliberation. Members are content that they have heard the entire presentation and debate. I will seek to go to the vote to make a minded to resolution by roll call. So I'm going to start off with David, Councillor David Bowell.
Minded to approve, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kelvin Clayton.
Yes, support, Chair.
Thank you. For clarity, Councillor Susan Cocking.
I support, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jean Dancer.
Minded to support, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Bill Pike.
For, Chairman.
Thank you. For clarity, Councillor Nick Ireland.
For, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor O'Leary.
Councillor O'Leary left the meeting at 14:38, Chairman.
We'll make a note of that. Thank you. Councillor Kate Weller.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Williams.
Minded to approve.
Thank you very much indeed. And that just leaves me, and I'm minded to approve also. So that's unanimous. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in favour. Is that correct?
Can you confirm that, Denise, please?
Go on, Anna.
Sorry, yes, that's correct. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was having a problem unmuting.
Okay. Right. Okay. Right. We're going to. I'm now going to go to Annalie. I'm going to ask Annalie to make a make a formal decision on this minded to resolution from the committee.
Thank you, Chairman, and I confirm that the minded to resolution from the committee will be taken forward. So this means the application will be granted, subject to no objection being received from Natural England and subject to the conditions as updated. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's lovely. God, I didn't forget. Right. Okay. Item 5 on the agenda, having completed all of the planning applications, is urgent items. I've had no prior notification of any items of business which is considered to be urgent pursuant to section 100B 4B of the Local Government Act 1972. And the final item on the agenda is exempt business. I have no prior notification of any item viewed as likely to be disclose exempt information within the meaning of paragraph 3 of the Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972 as amended. Committee, thank you for your forbearance today. It's been a long day, and that concludes the meeting. I therefore close the meeting. And thank you for your indulgence, and if I don't see you before, have a lovely Christmas.
Thank you, Chair.
Chairman,
Bye.